I don't like when it's too hot, but I don't want doom and gloom either. I need somewhere in between. But to get me back on our regular kind of schedule of recording a workout and then posting the workout the next day, that requires one buffer, which means you coming along with me to hit some cardio, right? And I know, not the flashiest thing in the world, 30 minutes pedaling on the seated bike in a Planet Fitness, nonetheless. Honestly, that's, I never even took that in consideration. If you're at a gym where people are freaking bringing it for real, well, I want to, like, if I saw someone doing a serious heavy squat of 5x5s or anything, powerlifting, bodybuilding, whatever, and I was sitting there doing cardio, and usually they make it so that the cardio is kind of in a position to look over everything anyway. I mean, that's just more reason to sit there and kind of chill out, But to rephrase this for the millionth time, my cardio of choice is the recumbent bike. Usually I'm just going to say seated bike, but I guess that's a little redundant. There wouldn't be a bike without a seat. But the main reason that I like it is I get to sit down pretty much in a reclined position, and my torso does not move at all. It's all hips and below, knee flexion, knee whatever. So for me, that is a huge positive, because I don't have to move my freaking arms back and forth or sway like you are when you're walking on a treadmill, or like when you're trying to keep your balance on a Stairmaster, just so I can sit and make the time pass by faster by just playing on my phone or watching a show or whatever. So it's a combination of, okay, I'm gonna go do my cardio, I'm gonna do it, I'm not slacking off, I'm making this shit happen, but also I want to make it easier for myself to do. There's at what point does making something harder than it has to be actually help? So I just don't see the point of trying to sit there and no music, no anything, just try to make like you're trying to make yourself suffer. I don't think there's anybody, at least not too many people like that, but I think people like the idea of that, where you can get kind of in this mode of imagining the idea of yourself as this hardcore, locked in, workout bodybuilder, crossbreed athlete, whatever, where in your mind it's like, okay, this version of me doesn't even need any of these comforts, any of these creature comforts at all when it comes to the training. I'm gonna get after like a freaking beast, just like in Blood and Guts, just like in all the old Jay Cutler videos, just like in, and it's like you're putting yourself on this pedestal where that's just not even reality. I want to bring it. I feel like I do bring it, but I need to keep it in line with just how things are actually going to work, and take into consideration my basically what I call my own subjective enjoyment factor of my training. Because the main reason, or the main thing that I like about how all my workouts are my own, I don't have someone telling me specifically what sets and what numbers of things to do. It's just because for me, I'm wired in a way where I like just having complete control over this thing. Nobody can take credit for it. I'm completely responsible. If I went up on stage for those first two shows and I looked like a total, I don't want to say, let's just say I was insanely out of shape and I clearly couldn't cut it, well, that would be my fault. So it comes with benefits and drawbacks. You get your own credit, but you also get more responsibility. Now, I'm not saying coaches don't know anything. That is not true at all. And whenever I do get to talk to these guys, every so often at expos and shows that we see, or I get to see Hani Rambod, he's always trying to drop in all sorts of real deep kind of, just small things that add up over time, So it's not as though I want no outside input, but it's more so I want to decide what input I take in and actually apply, so that's just kind of how I like it. But I know I kind of lost my train of thought a little while. Well, either way, 30 minutes, we'll be done. 30 minutes at a difficulty where I guess it's a little hard to describe. Excuse me. But it's such that, I can tell that I'm, kind of starting to get some fatigue. I'm feeling my quads, but not so hard that I'm actually like, completely dead out of breath. That's and that's where you can kind of imagine cardio too. It's like, what do we think of when we think cardio? We're thinking, Rocky running on the freaking beach. We're thinking logs. We're thinking like just full on Olympic sprints. And cardio's not like that. It's a little bit more low stakes. You show up, you plop your freaking butt on the seat or on the treadmill, you turn it on to 3 miles an hour, 5% incline. The treadmill's a little bit less intense, so you have to be on it for a little longer than the bike. But in either case, you just do it, and once it's done, you did it, right? It's what I would kind of consider a little bit more of the chore of fitness, because it's not insanely hype. Like I'm not getting myself amped when I'm sitting on the freaking treadmill, but what's a very common thing about chores? They often get skipped. They often just get neglected. They often get put in a category of, I don't want to do that. Later, and that's a small battle every day. In a world where everyone is in competition with each other, which I don't really think about it like that, but let's say hypothetically that's the world. Then every small battle that you can win in terms of your own fitness, that's putting you ahead of the game, right? That's moving you up the ladder of, just what is not exactly what's achievable, but what has been achieved. Because how many people even do cardio on the regular? Let's say average American, 90%, or no, just average American. Let's keep it America centered just for this guess. But how many Americans even do cardio? Well, and let's boil it down to even just an age range of around where I'm at. 18, 25, male. How many of us are doing cardio? Not a lot. 5%. Is 5% even too high? I know in a room of 20 guys, like at my school, or when I was at my school, whatever. Shit, man, these guys weren't doing it. Look around, like how many people do you pass a day where you think this guy is getting after it? Now, that's not actually a good litmus test, because you don't always know. If someone is locking in on cardio and they, now they're getting in a diet and they're down from 260 to 250, to the general public, we don't exactly know that you're grinding. That's where that's kind of on you to keep yourself steadfast. But not a lot. Let's make it a little bit more specific of a pool. How many people who work out semi-consistently even do their cardio? 10%? 15% if we're being a little bit more liberal with this dispersion? Not a ton. And what does that say about everything else? Calorie tracking, making sure you get a freaking jug with you full of electrolytes. Like, these things don't seem like physique make or breakers. They don't seem like gains bringers just because they're not flashy at all. A crazy set of incline bench press, ooh, that's where it's at. A crazy set of squats, sitting in the gym fully pumped, posing in the mirror. Those are the things that we give attention to, but those are only the end results of, how long do you think it would take, and how many sets, and let's say sets. How many sets of bench and everything else that goes along with training goes into even just one 315 max? Thousands? Maybe not tens of thousands, but definitely in the thousands. Now, of course, there's, genetic freaks out there, like that one dude who's like 6'6" in the 5th grade, and then he goes into being a linebacker. He probably doesn't need as much work to be able to rep 315. But I'm saying for more general size guys, like, it's going to take a while. And as cool as that one thing is, in that one tiny little moment, is evenly as, kind of uncool in all of those moments beforehand. So it all adds up, right? It's an equal exchange. but you've got to be able to handle a lot of maybe slightly less exciting things in the meantime to get to that level, right? I mean, I was doing, oh my goodness, like it was pretty crazy getting to do those bodybuilding shows, and just it all paid off, everything worked. Dude, there were, I mean, I did the math, straight up days in a row of cardio leading up to that. Like the hours added up to the point where I would kind of have like deja vu of just sitting on the cardio bike, because I was always at the same one in the same little apartment gym that I was at, which was nice for consistency. No, it was nice for consistency because I didn't have to drive. It was right there, you know. But I guess all I'm trying to say is, you know, my speech to promote some cardio propaganda. But I'm not even saying propaganda because it's just legit, you know. So I guess that's kind of my ender. I'll post. I'll try to get. I don't know. I don't think we need a full Q&A, but I'll scan the comments for a couple burning questions, and then we can find some answers on the way back. So I think I'm gonna go do my 30, get substantially sweatier than I am now, and I'll see you in a little bit. All right. One good question arose out of scrolling through the last few comments, and that question is as such: how or what tips do I have for trying to improve the mind-muscle connection? And for that, that's a tricky one. It depends on the movement. It depends on the lift. It depends on the guy. But for me, at least, I think what really helps is having a good just imagination of what's even happening when you're doing a set. You know, when you're loading a movement, right? Where's the tension in your body when you're doing a curl? You know, where do all these kind of points attach? And I'm not sitting like studying a legit anatomy chart or anything like that. But what I am doing is, you know, let's just think about this. Let's say you're holding a 20-pound dumbbell, right? Your bicep does not insert at your hand, you know, so even though you feel that force in your hand, that's not what I want to be focusing on, right? So what I'm really thinking is, okay, well, my hand's connected to my forearm. My forearm's just this big ass, you know, set of two bones. It's very linear. It's not bending at all. And over here is where all the magic's actually happening. Bicep attaching to forearm, wherever. And this is where the pulling is really coming from. So as much as I can like think about curling from my hand, I really want to kind of visualize like that force being lower and lower and lower in my arm until it's all the way right here. And this is where that contraction is at least stemming from. And I think biceps is pretty easy. Everybody can flex their bicep pretty well. And most movements almost force you to just activate them. There's no getting around it. So honestly, biceps probably aren't the highest on the list. Triceps, you can be a little pressing with a push down, but for the most part, you kind of have to flex your triceps to even move the weight. I think the most important ones to start to get a cue on: chest and back. Chest, back, and hamstrings, I think, are probably the trickiest. At least hamstrings in an RDL. But for me, back-wise, my main tip would be try to essentially send as few signals beyond your elbow. I mean, really even beyond like your upper arm as possible. So that's why I'm going to use straps, so I don't have to sit and like send insane flexing signals to my forearms to hold onto the handle, at least for the most part. And I can kind of have a relaxed grip and it's not going anywhere. So I don't have to send anything all the way down here to hold on and pull, because in the process of doing that, it's probably going to make me flex this kind of curling portion of my forearm and my biceps and do more of like a weird bicep bias pull down instead of a lat focused one. So straps, super cheap, lets you grab onto the bar and then just try to relax. And in terms of the visualization, as you can kind of imagine that you've got your shoulder blades on your back, and every time you're, you know, extending and retracting, they kind of open up and close in, open up and close in. That's kind of as far back as I'm trying to visualize, you know, my contraction. So I'm not pulling from my hands. I'm almost pulling right at my shoulder blades. And that's pretty tricky because, I mean, that's a pretty long distance. That's a full arm's length plus creeping behind your back where you can't even see it, trying to send those signals. But the better you get at it, I mean, even just like sitting down, I feel like I can flex at least my lats really well. Traps are a little trickier just because, like, you kind of have to do the action of moving them. And, you know, just the more you do it, the more you can, the better you'll get at it. And it definitely is a practice thing. And when it comes to pressing, honestly, pressing is pretty tricky. And I feel like sometimes I don't always think about it because I kind of have gotten used to it by now. But the first time I ever felt my chest, like really felt it working, was when I was in the basement of my home gym. Definitely, yes, less than a year in, but still, you know, pretty early. But I was doing incline barbell bench, and I had a mirror set up so I could see myself doing the reps as I was doing them. But I was just sitting there, and rather than feeling like I was pressing just with my hands, which would kind of get a bit more tricep and shoulder, like I could actually feel the sensation that I was almost pulling my arm upward just with my chest, and everything else was starting to kind of relax a little. So instead of this press where it's like just as basic as that, it's more so doing a press but still relying at least, you know, as big of a percentage as you can on your chest's actual leverages, you know. So it's almost like imagining this whole set of your upper arm doesn't even exist, or your lower arm, and you're just pulling in like this while keeping your shoulder blades retracted, you know. But apart from that, I mean, it's kind of just an experience thing, you know. And I think that the guys who care about that, the guys who actually do want to improve that aspect of their training, well, if that's on their mind when they're in the gym, it's gonna just begin to happen. Because if you're going into any situation with an actual, like, you know, attentive focus, and you're thinking about the details and you're really trying to improve, you've really got no choice but to, you know. Like, it's more of a situation of coming in. It's like you could show up to class, but you could be playing on your phone your whole time, you know. So two guys can lift for the same period of time, and the one who actually really cares and is trying to improve himself, he's going to see much better results, like drastically better, because he didn't just show up, he was actually present, you know. So that's a completely different situation than the guys who kind of just, you know, clock hours at the gym, but they're not really trying to work on it, you know. And then there's also a little bit of a trap where it's like you could think that you know everything you're doing perfectly right, but really, shit, man, right? You may as well just put blinders on to the world in terms of like trying to improve yourself. Because, I mean, I understand it, you know, to admit that you have more to learn, or to admit that you want to work on something. In a way, you know, some people, at least closed-minded people, would look at that as like, oh, well, that's admitting I have a problem. Ooh, that's not a good feeling. I don't want to think that. Nah. I'll just pretend I know everything I'm doing is perfect, so I don't have to even stress about it. You know, and that sucks. That is not cool whatso-freaking-ever. But yeah, successful cardio, not super strenuous. If you're curious, I think it's the well, whichever machines that Planet Fitness has, Matrix, I don't know, whatever. But difficulty level 11, RPM, I think around 90-ish. And for me, that puts the machine pumping out about 330, 340 calories an hour. Or no, calories every 30 minutes. And that lines up just about right for me. So I'm gonna go home. Keep maximizing my hydration, and then I'll get ready for a little lift tomorrow, a little lift later today for tomorrow, which is gonna have a little shoulders thrown in the mix, a little surprise. Gonna swap some shoulders in there. So I think nothing else to say, but let's just go get. Actually, no, I guess I was about to say let's go get started. No. For you, it's I'll see you tomorrow.